right, so it is morning time. I just woke up, finished my writing, getting that coffee in, and I don't know if you know, but something happened last weekend. We're not going to mention it because of algorithms and stuff like that. I know a lot of people have already gone into lots of detail about what happened and the implications of what would have happened if it succeeded, and the implications now that it hasn't happened. And I did what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to wait a week before talking about something because the news cycle runs really fast. And really, a lot of the comments that came from Christians and right wing or like conservative guys like me, just they were just reactionary, and it was really hard to kind of like follow it all because they've been waiting for this, whether they knew it or not, so they could just go crazy with like the news cycle and really just kind of like hammer what was going on and whatnot. And that's not what my channel's about. My channel is about tech and theology and what it means. But there is kind of like a roundabout caveat into this kind of stuff. A couple weeks ago, so prior to the event, that we all know what we're talking about. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. A couple weeks to that, we saw something pop up on Twitter. I think it was Mike Whittle that shared it. First, he thought it was, he jokingly said, I hope this is satire. And it was an article from the Huffington Post that suggested that Biden could use AI to help kind of bolster his performances in the debates and all that kind of stuff, because it's clear that he's in cognitive decline. It's clear that he is not in a position where he can compete with someone who's not in cognitive decline, who's not suffering from kind of onset dementia or whatever's going on with Biden. Like, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not going to diagnose it, but he's calling people different names. He's doing it a lot. He's seeming lost. He's not kind of sharp, kind of like agile in a debate. He's clearly wearing an earpiece. That kind of stuff. So the Huffington Post decided to post an article saying, "Oh, we could fix this problem with AI because that's what you do today. Is in these days is if you have a problem, you get AI to try and fix it." And I want to highlight that is a path that once we start to follow, brings us to some very interesting places. One, specifically in politics, it gives you a candidate that you can no longer unalive. If you have an AI that is the culmination of all their public speeches and declarations and decisions and policy that they stand for, books they've read, all that kind of stuff, you have this AI that's going to be able to field questions like in debates and whatnot, and you have an AI that can answer the press, and really just the body is like the stand-in and the AI is doing the talking, that kind of thing. However we get to that point, you have a politician that you can no longer remove by physical force, which is what we saw last weekend, is the attempt to remove a politician by physical force. This is something that's existed in politics since they started, because if you don't want someone ruling your country, you just get rid of that person. That's happened since back in Cain and Abel. We figured that out, that if you don't want someone who's better than you dealing with your life, is that you can kind of unalive them. And that's horrible, and it's a sin, but it is something that's been a part of politics. And if we move to AI, we would be getting into a situation that you can't, that you can literally have a political opponent or a political figure that can't be simply removed, because you could have a data backup of them. What a lot of people don't realize about AIs is that they're files. Essentially, it's more complicated, that granted, but they're files. So you can have copies of that person then. It's not just that you're, electing one person who is a real life person with real life infirmities and fragilities in their person. What you're, getting as a politician, if you allow AI into this sphere, is someone who then, because of the AI, can be in multiple places at once, and you can have Like, they joked about the entire presidency, someone who just hides in their basement and has AIs do all the work, because, all you need is like a body double, or even not a body double. Maybe you just need like a low-level government worker to bring the black box that is your presidency to the debate, or to the press conference, or to the, war in Ukraine, whatever you want to do. You can just bring that AI and it can do the presidenting for you, because you've just reduced it down to like a decision. It removes the human element from the equation, which is what people use unaliving for, is to remove the human element from the equation. You could put one in space. You could put one in the bottom of the ocean. You could put them so that they exist in ways that you can't compromise. And a great example for this, and I don't like using it, because I'm not a huge Marvel fanboy, but to its credit, it is a decent movie, is Age of Ultron. It takes a while for the characters in the movie to figure out how to defeat Ultron. It's like, yeah, you can't defeat someone that can exist in multiple places at once. And again, this is AI trying, like, nudging and trying to get its way closer to the divine. This is AI trying to practice omnipresence. I've talked about AI omnipresence in a way before, where it's like, think of an aspect in life that can't be interacted with AI. Like, if you've got, like the Great Barrier Reef and French politics and, how to cook pasta and, like any topic, can AI interact with that in a meaningful way? Well, yeah, of course, we could use AI to kind of monitor levels, all the kind of data that you could collect about the Great Barrier Reef to see where, areas need more attention or less attention from tourists, all that kind of stuff. Like, you could use AI everywhere, and that's because AI is trying to seek omnipresence, or we're trying to, like, apply omnipresence to AI. We're trying to make it something that is everywhere all at once, that kind of thing. And that's what AI will do to people who, use it for political ends. It will give them that kind of godlike power to be everywhere at once. So if it goes that way, and I don't think it'll go that way, but if it ever goes that way, that's what you get, is you get a political candidate that it doesn't make any sense to assassinate, because they're not in one spot. They're not that person. They're actually the box, and you have to kill that box, and that box can have copies, and you no longer have that card on the table. Now, that could mean a more peaceful, or at least a less, dramatically violent kind of form of politics, because if that's the thing that's making the politics happen, well, then what you have is a thing that can't be attacked with physical force. You have to deal with it ideologically. You have to defeat it in debates, which I think you'd still be able to do even though it is an AI. You have to defeat it on the merits of what it's trying to argue for and the policies that it's trying to put forward. You have to defeat it there, and you don't have the options, the lawfare that they're trying to do on Donald Trump, or the the warfare, which is what an assassination attempt is. You don't have those options anymore, which I think is an interesting place to be. But again, it brings us to the point where we're trying to pursue an aspect of what would be a divine attribute, omnipresence, that we're trying to apply that to our own lives and to our own needs in politics, to our own rulers. That's going to take us into kind of fishy territory. And where I think you'll see it, if it ever gets there, is not in politics, because that'll just be like a quaint addition, and then both parties, or all four parties if you're in Canada, will adopt that, and it'll just be AIs fighting with AIs, and we've all seen how AIs talking to AIs work on the internet. It gets crazy pretty quickly. So I don't think it'll go there, but where you will see it is in places where they need to revive previous dead leaders that had a large body of written work, or have a body of work that can be applied to them. I'm thinking mainly of the Mormon Church. The Mormon Church, in an age of information, is in this kind of weird spot where, like, it's very easy to disprove Mormonism as kind of like a fake religion. And I have some Mormon friends, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but you can Google search your way out of the Mormon faith real easy. In fact, you can do it in a way that that's really quite fast, and that's a problem for the Mormon Church, because they need to keep numbers up, and they're in historic decline. all that kind of stuff. They need to be able to fix that. Well, what if you could make an AI version of Joseph Smith, and you could give it all the Doctrine and Covenants and all the decisions that the church has made, and it can find all the inconsistencies and come up with reasons why those inconsistencies exist, and can do Mormon theology the way it needs to be done, but that the way no human being could. But because you've named it Joseph Smith the way you would name an AI Joe Biden, you've named it Joseph Smith, that it could be an authoritative voice. I think that is where that kind of omnipresent pursuit of AI is going to land when it comes to religion, that you're going to have people who look to revive their ancient faith or revive their kind of aging faith in the case of Mormons, because I think you could do this with the Muslim faith as well. And to make an AI that is authoritative in the knowledge that has been kind of collected and crafted in any one given religion. The reason I know this is because this is where atheists and agnostics are going with AI. Mark Manson and Yuval Harari, I think that's his name, a guy who wrote *Sapiens*. And Mark Manson wrote *The Subtle Art of Not Giving a His second book, Everything is talks about this at the end, and Yuval Harari's second book, *Sapiens*, I think I'm saying that right, also talks about this, how AI can be the perfect faith because it can kind of it can make all the adjustments to make kind of like a unified theory of things. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think something like that's going to happen because AI seeks that omnipresence, that it can be in multiple places and once, that it can be the kind of thing that is everywhere. It can be in the past when Joseph Smith found the golden tablets to translate for Mormonism, and it can also be now where there's lots of problems with that story because it doesn't make sense in a myriad of different ways, and there's lots of falsehoods that happen with it. It can kind of bridge all those things and kind of make authoritative decisions. The second you have that, you have a real deity or something claiming to be a deity that's going to have to be contended with. And I think that's where we're going to clearly see where generative AI is idolatry in different words or different clothes. And it probably always has been since its first kind of iterations, probably since Google searches, to be real honest with you. If you boil it kind of down, that's where this all kind of started. So when we're thinking about politics and we're thinking about how technology interacts with politics, politics is a really human endeavor. And the Huffington Post kind of tested the waters. They just kind of test the waters. Why don't we give a Biden GPT? And that seems like a good idea because it would prevent assassinations until you realize what it's going to do once we start applying that same logic to other places. I think that a Biden GPT or a Harris GPT or Trump GPT, a vegetarian painter from 1940s or 1930s Germany GPT, that's where that goes, and it goes to a Joseph Smith GPT, a Muhammad GPT. It goes everywhere, and that's because people are looking for this thing that seems like it can be omnipresent, seems like it can be omniscient, all-knowing, seems like it can be all these things that we would ascribe to God. I think that's where that goes, and I think that's where it's headed, and why people don't want to just let humans fail the way humans have always failed, because now we have a technology that can overcome that failing. So some food for thought. Think about where your generative AIs, the things that are making things for you, think about how they kind of touch that kind of idolatrous behavior, those attributes that belong to God, and that machines should not be trying to accomplish for us, even under the best of circumstances, even with the noblest of terms.